I was at a large outdoor mall in Columbus, Ohio, and wanted to do a little shopping before going into work nearby at 2 p.m. So, keep in mind this happened on a Wednesday afternoon in May. I parked on the first floor of a garage, a row directly across from the main entrance of the indoor mall area towards the back. As soon as I parked, I made eye contact with a guy walking in the next row. I was 26F at the time, and this guy looked to be around my age, if not younger. He turned towards me and started walking my way. I put my head down, started gathering my things, and next thing I knew, he was knocking on my window. I can't remember if I already had the window down or if I rolled it down more, but anyways, the window was almost halfway down. He asked me where the closest restroom was. I told him there is one as soon as you walk in the main entrance of the mall. He said he didn't know where that was and if I would show him there. I pointed and said, you literally just need to walk down this row and go through the doors and the signs will be right there. He really wanted me to show him where it was. He just stood there and looked at me for what felt like forever after he realized I wasn't going to get out and show him to the restroom. He then asked me if he could hop in the back seat real quick, and that's when my confusion went to panic. I really started to panic. I don't even remember if I responded to that right off the bat. He just kept going on asking if he could get in and then asked to hook up in the back seat, and I, being a nice person I guess, just said, no thank you, I have a boyfriend, I'm sorry, to which he responded, it's okay. I have a girlfriend and I love her. This just kept going on. Me telling him I needed to go and get to work and that I was sorry. He kept texting or something with his phone during the conversation too. I was afraid he'd try to open my door and I didn't want to lock them and somehow trigger this guy into doing something else. Somehow I finally got the courage to start the car back up, reversed the car, before he could say anything else. I worked a couple blocks away and hurried into the building before I called security. I have no idea what this guy's intentions actually were. I truly felt that he was trying to get me out of the car and possibly had other people close by. Maybe he really did just want to hook up, but who in their right mind goes about it in that kind of way? Was he bait for human trafficking? Was he just trying to rob me? He just seemed to be a normal person until the interaction furthered. Thankfully, but not. I was in a rental car because mine had been stolen exactly 3 weeks prior to this happening. Just very happy this guy did not see what I typically drove if he happened to snag the license plate and make / model of the car. What do you think this was? Any similar experiences? I still think about this and it's been about 2 years now. This happened to me roughly 10 years ago. For reference, at that time I would have been in my early to mid-40s then. I was meeting a friend for coffee and was running a bit early, so I had about half an hour to kill. So I stopped at a little park on the way to the coffee place. It had a parking area along the main road that led to the park itself, which was basically an asphalt trail around a small oval-shaped pond that was half-lined with a wooded area. There was a shelter, restrooms, and a kids' playground right near the parking lot. It was late morning and very sunny and getting warm, so I opened the driver's side window all the way and the passenger side window an inch or so. I was scrolling through emails on my phone when I noticed movement a few yards away on the trail. A young man in black sweatpants and a black hoodie was stretching with his back toward me. I was the only one whose car was parked in the lot at the time. I went back to my phone and emails when suddenly there was a pounding on the passenger side window. It was the guy who had been stretching a minute ago. He scared the crap out of me. I asked him, "Can I help you?" He didn't reply but put his face by the crack in the window and was grinning with a crazed look in his eyes. I quickly started the car up and shut both windows just as he dashed over to my side of the car and began trying to open the door. I honked the horn a couple of times and shouted at him asking what his problem was. He was still grinning like an idiot and not saying anything. Another car suddenly pulled into the lot and parked a few spaces away, and the grinning guy turned and ran off towards the woods. I pulled out and left the park, checking in my mirror to make sure he didn't come back out. That event weirded me out for some time afterwards, and I was thankful my car doors were locked and that I was able to close the windows before anything could happen. In 2005, when I was 17, my parents went on vacation. While they were gone, I stayed at my older sister, Lisa's apartment with her and my 9-year-old niece, Sarah. It was during fall break, so Sarah and I were out of school. Since it was only a 2-bedroom apartment, Lisa let me sleep in Sarah's room, and Sarah slept in Lisa's room with her. On this particular morning, Sarah and I had both slept in. She was so excited that I was staying with them. She wanted to stay up all night watching Disney movies. So we did. Lisa had fallen asleep on the sofa, so I picked Sarah up and put her in Lisa's bed. Then I went to bed myself. The next morning, I woke up to a man's voice. Lisa's boyfriend, Gary, had a very recognizable, deep voice, kind of like Vin Diesel. This voice wasn't Gary's voice at all. This voice was an older man, and he sounded very agitated. I went into the living room to see who was here, and I saw the man sitting on the love seat closest to the front door, and Lisa was sitting in a chair adjacent to the love seat. He looked to be in his 60s, and his shirt and jacket were nearly covered in blood splatter. She shot a fearful, surprised glance at me, as if she forgot I was there. The man stopped talking once he noticed Lisa had looked away from him. I made eye contact with him and he smiled. Then he placed the gun that he was holding onto the coffee table in front of him. I couldn't move. I didn't know what to do. My first thought was to get between him and Lisa somehow, but I knew I had to stay where I was because he would have to get past me to get to the bedroom where Sarah was still sleeping. I searched the man's face trying to figure out who he was. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. He broke the silence. "Hey, I didn't know anybody else was here. I'm Eddie, Gary's stepdad." I faked a smile and gave a weak wave. He took out a cigarette and lit it. Lisa was still sitting on the sofa, seemingly bracing herself for whatever Eddie had planned. Eddie motioned for me to sit down on the bigger sofa across from him. I did as he said. He took out a bag of weed and some rolling papers and began to roll a joint. "You smoke, youngster?" he asked me. Lisa spoke up. "No, he doesn't. That's my baby brother. He's only 16. Eddie laughed, looked at Lisa, then me and said, "Damn, what the hell y'all feeding these kids? That's a big motherfucker." Lisa laughed nervously. Eddie joined her, seemingly unaware of how uncomfortable we were. "Oh shit. I got sidetracked. Let me finish telling you what this bitch did, Lisa." Eddie went on to tell Lisa that he had just shot and killed a woman he knew because she stole $100 from him the previous night after he had passed out drunk at home. He said knew it was her because he had pistol whipped Gary's mother and made her tell him who went through his wallet while he slept. He then told Lisa he regretted not killing Gary's mother because he felt like she had set him up. He said he'd also shot the woman's husband but was unsure if he was dead. He laughed and said he knew for sure the woman was dead because her head exploded like a watermelon. My stomach was in knots. I was sweating and I could no longer hide my fear. I heard Lisa's bedroom door open. From where I sat, I saw Sarah walking across the hallway into the bathroom. Eddie looked in the direction of the hallway. "Damn, Lisa, who else is here?" Lisa spoke quickly. "It's Sarah, please Eddie. You know I don't allow smoking around her. Can you go on the patio with that?" Lisa's voice trembled. Eddie must have heard the fear in her voice because he replied, "Girl, what you scared of? I ain't gonna do nothing to you, you good people. I just wanted to come see you before I go. You know the police is probably looking for me by now. But I just couldn't leave without seeing my favorite spades partner." Eddie smiled as he stood up and gathered his bag of weed, the joint and gun. I heard the toilet flush, then the sound of water running in the bathroom. I began to pray that Sarah wouldn't come out here before he left. Eddie must have read my thoughts because he said, "Don't worry, Youngblood. I'm going to get on out of here before that baby can see me like this." Lisa and I both stood up as he walked to the door. Lisa opened the door for him and he walked out. We watched through the window as he got into his car and drove away. Lisa quickly grabbed the phone and called 911. Sarah came out of the bathroom and asked if the scary man was gone. Lisa said yes and hugged Sarah. Sarah began to tell me she never liked Eddie because he acted strange and looked scary. When she heard his voice on her way to the bathroom, she stayed in there because she didn't want to come out and see him. I was pacing back and forth trying to process what had just happened. Lisa explained that Eddie was a drug addict and alcoholic. Gary's mother had kicked him out, but he would keep popping up at her house. She was already aware that Eddie had attacked Gary's mother because Gary had called to tell her, though they didn't know he'd killed anyone when he came to Lisa's house. Eddie was arrested shortly after our encounter and we had to talk to detectives. They told us the man he shot had died on the way to the hospital. It took years for me to forget the way he gleefully described killing that woman. He died in prison not long after he was convicted of the murders.